Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Conversations with MaryJane. It is March 17th, 2020, St. Patrick's Day. And I don't need to make any announcements of what's going on with the world. I'm sure all of you are well aware of it. So because of that, we all came together to do a special episode to talk about mindset and maybe some things that we're all going through as the cannabis community and as the world. So today, in a little bit, James Hyland, who was our very first episode, he's my holistic wellness coach, is on, and we're going to talk all about mindset, meditation, how to be cooped up with the people that you love, and some food. At the end, we're actually going to do a meditation that you guys can play through. The reason why I asked James, and I mentioned this a little bit with him, the reason why I asked this is because I noticed I was starting to struggle. So if everyone remembers the hurricanes that happened way in Texas a few years ago, this is when I learned how I respond to the news. And so one day, after watching CNN for hours on end, Colleen came home and saw me sobbing in a ball because I was so overwhelmed with sadness and what I had been watching. And so it became very clear that I have to limit the amount of news that I watch when things like this are happening. And so I noticed over the past couple of days that I was starting to watch more news, ruminate on thoughts, think about the future, think about things that maybe could happen. And I started to notice like a swift decline in my mental state, which for me in my health journey, my mental state has been so key to remaining healthy. And so I thought, man, if I've had all this practice and I am losing it very quickly, I feel like maybe I'm not the only one, and maybe this is more to make sure I'm not the only one and I won't feel so bad. But that's why we put this all together. And so, you know, I put a call out on social media today because I wanted to get some good news to share. And I got some to share. And I think we will continue, and I'll continue to focus on even how small it is, anyone who considers anything good news. So I just want to go through and share these. So let's go with it on my glass. Here we go. Heady state of mind. She said, despite all the changes happening, love and faith have endured. And I feel that is like one of the things that you don't find when you just watch the news. You don't get to see all the love and all the faith that is happening. So thanks for sharing that, Sarah. It means a lot to me, and it helps me remember that. Samantha Jolie 12 said she just made a whole bottle of hand sanitizer to fight the plague. And so actually there are great recipes. I know a lot of stores are out of hand sanitizer. This is one of the things that maybe in a week or so, we're going to bring on a cannabis chef who is going to talk to us all about how to make medicine stretch. We're just here to help provide information that is going to make our lives a lot easier as we go through this challenge as a world. XO Mrs. Crash, she got a whole bunch of flour to infuse with. I would love to know how many of you went and did more bulk shopping with cannabis than maybe you even did with groceries. I know that was probably the biggest thing that I bought a lot of, actually, was cannabis, just to make sure. Such a time for home grow. Balto Babe, this is my favorite. I can stay home and binge watch my YouTube channel. Not her YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Balto Babe, for always being there and such a fan. And Backwoods Blair says she feels like she's going to be productive as fuck during this. And I think, man, if we plan this right, a lot of good is going to come out of a very dark time for all of us. And I'm thankful that all of you took that time to share that with me. And so as I read them, before I read them, I went into it feeling powerless and pissed off and scared and uncertain about the future. I know most of you feel that way. And so I think we can all come together on that emotion. What I'm trying to practice for myself is just grace, is allowing myself to have sad moments, is allowing myself to feel any which way that I need to feel, but then letting it go and getting back on with the plan and to continue to live. And when I say continue to live your life, I don't mean that you should be out there taking chances. What I mean is we become more imprisoned by our minds in these moments than anything. And so we need to have a strong mindset going into this. And James, and there's so many free resources outside of just what James is going to talk about in this podcast that can help keep you, your family, and everyone on the right track during something that is so unprecedented and so trying. And if you have ideas, if you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and share them below and we'll all come together. I'd love to hear ideas on how you're making your medicine stretch, ideas on how you're keeping people busy and how you're keeping positive. So we do have a few updates from our sponsors, and so the commercials will run a little bit different this time. But I know all of you are well aware of what the MMCC has put out. Maybe it's March 17th, so maybe by the time you hear this, this is even different. And so that is what makes this just a little bit harder to disseminate news. So you can check on my Instagram to get all the latest and updated as it goes along. So first and foremost, I want to talk about Peak Relief. They sent me just a quick update to give to you guys about how to get your medicine. So and again, everything is changing day by day. So when you listen to this, and I'm probably going to be wrong when this comes out, just don't be mad at me and go check the website and you'll learn all the things that are actually correct. So right now, Peak Relief has limited their hours to 10 to 8 until further notice. So that just allows them to keep the number of staff low during this time so people can stay home if they're not feeling well. Please call ahead and order online, or you can even call ahead your order. They're encouraging you to stay home if you don't feel well. All of these things are things that we know, but they are offering curbside delivery. So when you call in your order, you place it ahead, they're going to run it out to you. And that will make contact, as all government officials have been saying, and keeping your social distance. That will help with that. Next up is Evermore and the living room. And so their update is such where you'll notice again, it is having curbside delivery. It is making sure you call and order ahead, as my phone is not doing this. Most importantly, they want everyone to know, though, they're going to keep you guys updated as things change. And so if you don't have Instagram, if you don't have signed up for text messages before you go to the dispensary, make sure you call them, make sure you go to their website, make sure you understand like what those hours are and what they're doing. And the last significant point from Evermore is you can significantly help using their electronic payments through MaryJane and CanPay. And that will help facilitate the parking lot delivery. And that's just one of the many things that they're doing to try to stay and remain open during all of this. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to Evermore. You can send me a message. We will give more updates from the sponsors and the cannabis community as a whole as to what's happening, so you understand how that affects you in getting the medicine that you need. So right before we get into the conversation with James, I did have one special note. Today is my wife's 32nd birthday. She is a St. Patrick's Day baby, and I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday. And we are going to have an amazing birthday party at our house. Every year, she dresses up in insane amounts of all things Irish, like the craziest outfit ever. And we're going to do a bar crawl in our home by ourselves. And we're going to take ginger and lemon shots as we go around the room to celebrate her birthday. So to all the Irish babies and St. Patrick's Day babies who are inside your homes, not doing the things that you really wanted to do today, I appreciate you staying home. And happy birthday, babe. Thank you for being such an amazing force in my life. And I love you. And now, on to the show with James. Well, thanks for being here, James. I'm so excited to have you back. before we get started, just I appreciate you at last minute on Sunday agreeing to do this. So just a little history of what's happened today. If you haven't watched the entire season, James is my holistic lifestyle coach, and he was my very first episode. And obviously, there's some crazy things happening in the world right now. And Sunday morning, I woke up. We have an episode already queued up to be released next Monday. Today's March 17th. But I decided we're going to push that back because I can't think of anything that we need more than to focus on our mindset, maybe some meditation, maybe some purpose, maybe something other than the coronavirus, and maybe some ways to make us stronger. And so I feverishly text you on Sunday, probably not making much sense in between the homeless, saying like, can you do this? And we spoke for maybe 3 minutes going like, here's how we want to set this up. And we were able to get all of this moving pretty quickly. So I'm thankful you took that. That's a big thing to do in just 48 hours. So I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful for the opportunity and to be here again with you in the audience.
So, I mean, the whole purpose to talk today is, I can tell you how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can help me, and then it will kind of go and flow into generally what we should be doing. So maybe I'm like a lot of you. I am in pure panic for about maybe 3 hours out of the day. I allow myself some time to watch the news, take it all in, make plans. But what I find in situations like this is that I tend to ruminate a lot. Mm-hmm. I am making plans A through Z, which I think is great. However, once you have that, you have to stop thinking about that stuff in my mind. And I continue to do that. And then I'm having ultimate moments of just extreme sadness, fear. I mean, I think all of these emotions everyone's having. And we've worked so closely together over the past year, especially helping with my mindset. I couldn't figure a better person to come in and kind of help us as we're faced with such stress and such unknown. What are things that we can do personally in this moment to help center us, to calm us, to make us even more healthy so we can handle all this uncertainty that's happening? That's a tall order. So just, you can start talking and we'll listen.
Well, thank you again for having me here, and definitely appreciate your honesty and openness because it is a scary time. Yeah. It is. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear going around, and this is a time that really no one has, a lot of people haven't experienced something like this at all, and the uncertainty is a scary part. I mean, human beings, we love certainty. We love to know that things are going to be the way they are, and when they aren't, questions start popping up, and it's easy to really start going down some negative cycles. And, really, as we kind of, as myself and I kind of hearing you too, I mean, it sounds like, a lot of times we can get into these thought patterns, right? Yeah. And it's said that we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and anywhere from 80 to 90% of them are negative, and 80 to 90% of them are ones that we had yesterday. And with everything that's going on recently, I could say those numbers are probably only getting higher, right? Yeah. So we're caught in these cycles, right? We're checking our phones, we're looking for the newest updates. Is there anyone close to me who has it? Mm-hmm. It's just
watching
part of
maps populate numbers.
Yeah, it's like is it where's it happening? And it's tough. It's really tough to break those cycles when it's going on. But one thing that I have found extremely helpful for myself during this time, and for other people who I've talked to, is simply pausing when you find yourself having a negative thought. And this is not about not having negative thoughts. It's not about not having fear. It's not about all those things. I mean, those are human emotions. They're going to come up. We don't want to suppress those. But the thing is, when they do come up, we want to notice them and then release them, because where we focus our attention, energy flows to. So if we're focused on the negative, we're focused on things that we don't want, we tend to attract those into our lives. But really what we want to be focusing on is what we do want. Yeah. So, a couple of things with that is, one, it's been studied that a positive thought is 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than a negative thought. So a lot of people will say like, hey, I'm having these negative thoughts, like I can't just think of a positive thought. But it's actually extremely powerful practice. So whenever you would find yourself in a negative thought cycle, what I like to do is just take a deep breath in, like down deep in my belly, fill up, and then I shake it all out. You can stand up. I mean, if you're in a car, just be like, be careful where you are, but take a deep breath in, shake it all out, and then think about something positive. Think about something you're grateful for and you have in your life right now. So it could be, how grateful you are for your partner and the partnership that you have and how much love is in that connection, whatever it might be. But every time you find yourself in, thinking about something negative, like just by taking a deep breath in, shaking it out, and then having a positive thought after that, we're retraining ourselves. And the more and more we do that every time we have these negative thoughts, they'll start to dissipate as they kind of move forward.
Yeah. So for someone who's learning a habit like this, how to replace a thought, what would be kind of a trigger for them to go like, oh, I'm in, because it's noticing this pattern, right? So it's taken me a week to realize what bullshit I've done to myself, right? By like staying glued to the news, and it took me a minute. So what are some things people can do, some like triggers to then help them do that practice you just talked about? Yeah,
so there's a couple, if you want to call it habit hacks that I like to use. One could be literally just putting a calendar appointment in so that every hour you just pause, you take a deep breath, shake it out, and think the positive thoughts. So just taking that pause throughout your day, even if you're not having negative thoughts, is going to help out anytime. The second would be like when you find yourself in those negative thought cycles, and it's not about beating yourself up about like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about all this stuff. But when you do find yourself thinking about something that, or your body is giving you signals, like your palms are getting sweaty or you're feeling anxious, just remembering every time you feel that is a trigger to then bring in that positivity and break that cycle. Because again, the more we feed into that negative energy, the more that negative energy is going to be there and keep building. So the more that we can just stop it when we can, the more that's going to present more opportunities for you. The other thing that you could do is, I was actually doing this the other day to test it out, was I just had the stopwatch on my phone go off it could be every half hour, it could be every hour, and every time it went off, then that was my time to pause, take a deep breath, shake it out, and bring in that positive energy as well.
People don't realize, I think, a lot of work like this has to be kind of structured and routine, and in creating habits, there's patterns that you have to create. How important do you think habits and patterns are, like right now?
I mean, they are very beneficial and very huge. I mean, they've helped me out so much, and I think for each person, it really depends on them for how they want to structure their habits. Like I said, if they want to put it in their calendar or schedule everything out or just build their day. But the more you can build in these positive habits, the more it's going to help you out overall. So, some habits that I would potentially recommend, especially during this time, is starting your morning off right. Right? It's easy for us to roll out of bed and grab our phone and see what the latest updates are, what's going on in the world. And what we do when we do that is we're training our brain to be on the defensive. Like
that's what I did all this week.
We're getting into that mode of like, okay, what's coming at me, instead of really setting our day up for how we want it. So, the first thing I would say is when you wake up in the morning is just express some gratitude, and gratitude for being alive, for whatever it may be that makes you feel good. Like just starting your day with that gratitude can be such a powerful tool. Oftentimes you could have somebody who will get out of bed, they stub their toe, and then they go in the bathroom and they drop something in the toilet or whatever it might be, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a terrible day. But it's like, no, it's not going to be that. It doesn't have to work that way. It was just a moment in the day, but we can always recenter ourselves. But just by starting your day with that positivity can really help set you up throughout the rest of the day. Something else that I like to do in the mornings too is set your intention for the day. So your intention is, I like to think of it as a feeling that I want to feel throughout that day. So it could be relaxed, it could be joyful, it could be happy, it could be whatever it is you want to feel. Like, I get really clear on that throughout the day. So then when times that I'm feeling different stress or anxiety come up, what I do, and I can repeat to myself, and this is another trick that people could use, or tool that they could use, is, so say my word for that day was joyful, and all of a sudden, something happens and I'm feeling afraid or I'm feeling stressed. Well, even just taking a moment and just setting a timer on your phone for, call it a minute or 2 minutes, or even just sitting in that space, and then repeating that word to yourself. So closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths, and just repeating that word, joyful, 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 silently to yourself over and over again helps you get out of the big picture of all what's going on and back to recentered to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Because the key is, a lot of what's happening right now is like, you can focus on what you don't want, right? It's like, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. But again, it kind of goes back to, if you focus on what you don't want,
that's what you get.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
So an easy practice you could do is, if you had like a coin in your pocket or something, it's like, whatever you don't want, well, if you flipped it, like, what is it do you want?
Yeah.
So say if it was like, I don't want to be stressed, it could be, well, I want to be just happy and joyful throughout. And it's like, that's what you want, right? You don't want the stress, but don't focus your attention on that. Focus on what you do want, which is, it's a game too, because what you don't want is going to be more prominent than what you do want. And when I started doing this, like, it's frustrating because it's like, okay, I keep having these negative thoughts. But what you realize is, the more you can practice these tools and start bringing in different positive thoughts, they start to dissipate. Yeah. It's, again, not that you're not going to have them, but it's just a way for you to keep coming back, keep getting recentered in your own day-to-day. Because with all that's going on, of course, you want to be safe. You want to make sure that you're doing all the right things, but you also have to live your life. Yeah. And with this situation that we're in now, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it all shakes out. I think it's still some ways to see that, but I also think there's a lot of positive things that are going to come out of this as well. There's going to be negative, but one of my favorite quotes is from Carl Jung, and he says, "No tree can go to heaven unless its roots first grow to hell." You have to have a light in the dark.
Oh, for sure.
And it's funny, when I was doing, I think this is a great time too for people to check in with, whatever type of spiritual guides that they have, if they, whatever their religion or background or spiritual practices are. And what came clear to me as I was, spending some time with mine was, there's always that light in the dark. There's the light in the dark, and you have to have the light in the dark. And that I do think a lot of light is going to come out of this, but there's going to be some darkness as well. For sure. But it's realizing that it's not all one or the other, and just finding that balance. Because I think what we're seeing right now overall, not only in the world but also individually, is there's two forces that kind of balance everything, and that's you want to think more of the masculine and feminine, or yin and yang if you look at it that way. But the masculine is very outward, a lot of heat, a lot of doing. And what's happening right now is, I think for a while that energy has been very rampant in our society. And now you're seeing that, the slowing down is starting to happen, because we're getting forced into it a little bit. But with that slowing down, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to realize, there's a lot of more balance they can bring into their lives and still live their lives they want to live.
Oh, I agree with that balance. Like, I think we're going to see some amazing things, and I'm a realist about things. I do think it is going to be scary for some, and hopefully it's not, right? Like, that is my best case, is that everyone can say, well, Jill, you just overreacted. And that would be so happy for me. But I do think, like what you said, the slowing down, one of the things I learned very early on was how you start your day. That moment when the alarm clock goes off, that first thought in your head is vital to the success of the rest of your day. So if you wake up in the morning and you dread it, and you have I remember being like, fuck, I got to go to work again.
Mm-hmm.
It just, every second after that was horrible. And I don't even remember the moment, but I just thought to myself, I was like, something's wrong if when I wake up, I'm not happy to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how miserable is that? And so that's when I really started to switch flip the switch on how I handled my mornings, and really started to pay reverence to me waking up and giving gratitude, because maybe one day I don't wake up from my sleep, right? And how horrible would that be to have wasted a lifetime of beautiful mornings being pissed off because I had to wake up and I had to live. And so I think, especially now, routines, morning, really blocking to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. I love the idea of setting a timer so that every hour you are shaking it out or doing something to help you stay focused. Because I know, especially right now, I just am working from home. Most people are. Maybe they have kids that they're trying to like tutor and keep kind of going. And so having not a free-for-all day, I think, is going to be very beneficial for people to say, like, as much as normal as it can be with it. What about some meditation practices that you think people could start to do? So let's just say, like, all of that works, but maybe there was just a really bad press conference and I'm especially panicked and, I need a little more help than maybe just smoking a blunt and then sitting there and continuing to think about, like, everything that could happen. Yeah. What else can I do? Like, let's say, like, here's now let's triage someone who may be close to having, like, a panic attack or getting a little more anxious than usual.
Yeah, I mean, the first place I would probably start is your breath.
Yeah.
And your breath is such a powerful tool to bring us into the present moment. Because when you look about like anxiety and stress, like, it's typically we're worrying about something that may or may not happen in the future, or we're regretting something in the past that kind of pulls us out of the present moment. So the breath is a great way to anchor you right now in this space. So if you think about the breath too, though, it can activate your fight or flight response, or it can activate more your parasympathetic nervous system. And if you think about breath, like, if I was going to go run some sprints, like, I'm going to be breathing up high, like, because I'm using a lot of air. But when that's going to activate more your fight or flight response. But if you can actually breathe down in your belly first, so like when I teach people how to breathe, I just have them put one hand on their heart, one hand on their belly. And really, you want the first 2/3 of the breath being in the belly and the last third in the chest. So if you were taking deep, full breaths in, just kind of letting them go, almost like a wave, like 2/3 in the belly, 1/3 in the chest, I would start by just taking a few deep centering breaths. Because, again, you're not breathing in the past, you're not breathing in the future, you're breathing right now.
Often find in anxious moments, I'm even holding my breath.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even realize, and that in and of itself creates anxiety. Your body, like, in a stress, I'm like, why am I not breathing? Like, your whole body just tenses up and you just forget to breathe.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, anxiety is excitement without breath.
You say that to me a lot.
Yes.
It is constantly in my head.
I mean, because if you think about, like, the feeling is the same, but oftentimes we're anxious. We just forget to breathe. So just by breathing, so anyone who is feeling any kind of that stress or anxiety come up right in the moment, again, I would put a hand on the heart, hand on the belly, take deep belly breaths, just really slowing, real slow, as slow as you can go, and it's comfortable, and just follow the breath as it goes in through your nose, down into your belly, up through the chest, and then reverse it kind of back out. And just taking a few of those, I mean, you'll know it yourself, like, you'll be able to feel it pretty quickly, can really help you in the moment. So after I would do that to slow down, a couple of the techniques you could use is, again, going back to the intention you set for the day. So if you had that in a word or a short phrase, so taking a few deep breaths and then just repeating that word to yourself over and over again silently. So a lot of times in meditation, that's called it's called your mantra. So you can use that as an anchor. So as you're repeating it silently to yourself, you still may have different thoughts come up, and that's perfectly fine. Because a lot of what meditation is doing is about clearing thoughts. When I first started to meditate, I thought I'm just supposed to sit there and not think anything, but I realized that's not the case. And
explain more about that, because I think that's a concept that people don't get about meditation.
Yeah. So one of my teachers, Michael Bernard Beckwith, likes to refer to meditation as a washing machine. So if you think about a washing machine, when you first put your clothes in, there's the agitation cycle that starts, right? It shakes everything to loosen the dirt up, so then it can be cleansed away. So that's very similar to meditation.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
If you think about the first... really, I mean, sometimes if I meditate for 20 minutes, I might not feel comfortable until the last 2 minutes, because that dirt and all that agitation is shaking everything up for those first 18 minutes or so before I can clear them away. Because a lot of what's happening is it's allowing you to process different thoughts, different feelings, different emotions, and then let them go. So it's kind of like also one of the analogies I like to use is it's like a bubble. Like if a bubble was going to come up from the ground, it starts small, it gets bigger, that's your thoughts, and then it pops, and then it's gone. Yeah. So that's a lot of what meditation is doing, just allowing that cleansing to happen. So I know some people might get frustrated because I keep having these thoughts of the meditation. It's like, no, that's you're doing some of the best work.
No one's ever explained it. I think that will help people not be so hard on themselves and not give up, to know that's like a part of the process. To get it all out. Yeah,
it's if you have a lot of thoughts, you're doing some great work right there, because you're releasing so much too. And I have been meditating for years now, and it's something, I mean, we all have thoughts, so it's not as I still have that, and it depends on the day of how they're coming up. But when you have a mantra, so again, using that word, your intention for the day, or if you really like the breath, you can use your breath and just use that as a place to follow. So if you were using a word, just silently repeating that word to yourself. So it could be joyful.
Yeah, mine's joyful. Release. I say it all the time, like release, really, like just trying to let it go.
And then if you find yourself thinking about something, it's like, okay, that's okay. I'm just thinking I'll come back to my mantra and begin again. Because every time we catch ourselves thinking and then coming back to that mantra, we're retraining ourselves. So again, when we go back to the negative thoughts we were talking about earlier, it helps us so we're in the moments of looking at our phone and be like, oh my gosh, being like, okay, like I can put the phone aside, like I can come back to the present moment. One of my other favorite quotes is from Viktor Frankl, who wrote A Man's Search for Meaning, and I'll probably paraphrase it a little bit, but he said there's a stimulus and there's a response. In between that, there's a space. So like something happens, right? So I say something to you, there's space for you to respond to what I have to say. What meditation does for me is takes that space and just makes it wider and wider and wider. So when things happen throughout the day, I'm not making a snap reaction to it as I might have in the past. So it helps me. It may even feel like not even a second, like it gives you a chance to pause and be present with what's in front of you, and then come back to it. Now again, we're all human. Like I still go down these cycles too, but then when I can find myself in the cycle and then bring it back, then I can release that a little bit more. So it just gives me something again to focus my attention on and help break a lot of those cycles we have.
Being ruled by your emotions is not like where we should be making decisions. And I know that, like I feel like I pride myself on making quick decisions. However, a lot of times that can come and bite me in the ass, because it is made on a split second of an emotion, and maybe disguising it as intuition sometimes. And that's not always the case, right? Because I just want to act the way that I want to act. But I do find if I do just wait a second, I am not so upset. I'm not so, and I think it's just my subconscious processing, not my emotion processing. Like it's going through some kind of like analytical process that allows me to then come out at the end like, oh, this really isn't that big of a deal. Like once I stopped feeling upset, I just realized, oh, it's not the end of the world with it. Yeah,
and sometimes you just need, again, that pause. With it too, and just really time to check in with yourself. So one of the things about meditation is it allows you to be with yourself. which, you know, in this day and age, like, we really don't take that much time to truly be with ourselves and see what comes up. So, you know, it helps you, again, defer between, you know, your intuition versus maybe more your ego that can get involved.
That's the word I wanted.
Yeah. With it as well.
Bitch, that ego.
Yeah. They are. They help it. They're there for a reason, but they can be, it can be tricky sometimes.
Troublemakers.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, so it's just creating, it just helps you create more of that space.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely one of the gifts, you know, around meditation as well.
Yeah. So I think, you know, you're an entrepreneur, your wife's an entrepreneur. Both me and my wife are entrepreneurs. We're in a room full of them. There's a lot of commonality right now between all of us, right? So I'm very used to being at home, working solo, being around Colleen a lot because we do work together. So we have people who are now having to come together and be around each other that maybe they haven't been around for so long. So what are, like, maybe some tips you and Mary Beth, or maybe some things you guys have done to help mitigate so much of the in-your-face time? Because I know for us, we've set up, this is my office in the part of the house, your office is over there, and just some rules so that we're just not creating tense situations because we're around each other. I do believe distance is important in relationships.
Yeah. So I left the financial industry almost 9 months ago. So we've been working together for that time, working from home. We both, like I said, are entrepreneurs running our businesses and our business together. And you know, at first it definitely took some getting used to. And I think for both of us, I mean, one, you know, leaving the corporate world and, you know, starting my own, working together and starting our own business, that definitely had some challenges. But also just being in a work environment too, and then going to at home was a little bit different for me because it was like, okay, again, talking about routines, it was like, okay, I know I'm going to listen to my podcast or audiobooks on the way there. And then when I'm here, like, there's a lot of structure that was involved with that, but that structure kind of went away. And that was a little bit challenging for me.
Which I imagine a lot of people feel that right now.
Yeah.
They have structure and now it's gone.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was challenging at first because I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed, like, I was running a sales team, so I was more in the senior leadership. So it wasn't as if I had people telling me what to do. I had more autonomy than that, but it's a different type of autonomy when you're at home and there's more things around you. So for what I would say is, like, try to find, again, if you're a routine type person, try to make as much of a routine as you can. And really just try to set your day up for how you best like to work. Like, one of the things I realized too was I like to sleep in a little bit more than I used to, and I like to do work first thing in the morning and actually later in the evenings. Now, when I was in the corporate world, like, that was not the case, but I found myself to be more productive that way. So I think it's actually a really great opportunity for people to get curious with themselves and find out how they like to best work. So that's actually, I mean, that's, for me, it was a great opportunity. There were definitely some growing pains around that for myself with that transition. But I think, too, as much as you can add into your day things that bring you joy, realizing that, you know, you still got to get your work done. But if there are ways, like, you know, for me, it was as easy as, like, okay, well, now I don't have to put on my suit anymore, which was nice. But yeah, if I wanted to just get up and go for a walk or whatever it might be, it's like I had that autonomy now where I didn't have somebody, like, telling me what I had to do. So as more I got curious about that and really just started to discover what I liked and what I didn't like, that's how I was able to set up my day-to-day. And then when it came to us working together in the same space, that, I'd say, the biggest, most important thing I would tell anyone is communication. So communication is key. And I'm a student of the Rees family, who wrote the 4 agreements, which are don't take things personally, don't make assumptions.
All my problems.
Be impeccable with your word.
I got that one.
And always do your best.
Those two.
And as I've we've been working together, I've kept coming back and back and back to those 4 agreements, because the communication is key. And with any, doesn't matter if you've been together for, we've been together for 17 years. I imagine some people have been together for a lot longer than that, or a lot less. But the more you can communicate, because it doesn't matter when you're in the working environment or workspace together on a day-to-day basis, it's much different than just hanging out with your partner on the weekends or evenings or so forth. Like there's stuff that needs to get done. So for us, the communication was key, but also communicating in a way of like, why did you do it this, or why did you do this, or why did you do that? It's like no more about, hey, like help me understand why you did this way, or help me understand how you best like to work. You know, we're on
like being more curious.
Being more curious.
Versus, I think, you know, the biggest difference, and I think even working from home, or we're in this space together, you have a family trying to navigate this new world. The biggest difference is not just communicating, but how you communicate.
Yes.
So I come from upper management, and so in a very aggressive workforce where a lot of my tone, believe it or not, was very, like, it just wasn't nice, and I demanded a lot. Cannot be that way when you work with your significant other, when you're trapped in a house with your family. I mean, Colleen mentions to me, she's like, what are you going to do, send memos to the kids like when they behave, and then you're going to do quarterly evaluate? I was like, if I could run life like that, I would like it, because it does like pull emotion out of it, but it's not great for connection. It's more fear versus love. It's less cooperation. It's, you know, more isolation. And so I think even talking to one another changes it, you know? Being more aware of that now.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to, so we talked a little bit before, but it goes back to the intention, right? Like, what is your intention behind, you know, the conversation that you're having or so forth? Because it's interesting you brought that up, because a lot of times when I am angry or frustrated, like Mary Beth knows it right away, because it's in my body language. Even if I don't say anything, like she'll know right away. And I'll like try to hold it back, and it's like, no, I gotta say that. So it's like, but I realize when I'm feeling those kind of feelings, if I say something, right, it might come off right in that different tone. So I have, like, what's really helped me in that situation is to say, like, hey, like, I'm feeling pretty upset right now, or I'm feeling frustrated, or whatever it might be. I know, and again, it's not about blaming the other person, but it could be, hey, I know this wasn't your intention, but this is how this made me feel. And, you know, my intention behind having this conversation is that we can come to a solution on how to best both work in this space, or whatever it might be. And I found, again, if you get curious, you ask questions, because we don't know what's going on with other people. And a lot of times people are a mirror for us, so they're reflecting back something we don't like in ourselves, which then gets us even more riled up. But again, if you go back to your intention of, hey, we're in this together, we want to create a beautiful space so we can both do this, we can live like our lives the way we want to, we can work in our spaces, like that's what you can keep coming back to. Because if you have the intention set up right, then you can always come back to that. That's something that we do a lot in meetings as well. It's like you're having a meeting with people. It's like, what is our intention for the meeting? That way people get off track and say, oh, hey, let's come back to our intention. And it helps keep people on the same page and realize that, I mean, we're all humans. We're going to have different feelings. We're going to have different emotions pop up. That's part of it. And this is something that's been a lot of work on mine, because I used to be I'm going to hold everything inside and then just like pop. Or like I'm not going to say anything. And
that's why we get along.
But I realized the more I can just be open with that and just share from my own perspective, not blaming, you know, Mary Beth or anyone else, or not judging myself or judging them for what's happening on, but just being just real with it and open and realize that, hey, we're in this together. That's been really, really helpful for us. Now we are in a situation where it's just the two of us. And I know a lot of people have bigger families. There's going to be other stuff going on. So I think every case is different, but I think just coming back to that intention and having open communication is going to be key for any of this during this transition.
The intention the setting intention has been like life-changing for my like very planning, anxious person, right? So at the beginning of the day and, you know, even the day before, I'm writing down all the things I want to accomplish. And it's very easy when your success is wrapped up in a to-do list to not feel great at the end of the day. I think especially like this last week has been insane for me. It just wasn't coronavirus. Colleen's grandmother passed away on Monday. If you knew Fakiza from the MMCC, she passed away on Thursday, and she's a dear friend and such a great advocate for cannabis at the MMCC. And then all of this, and I just think like my days, I've not been able to accomplish that massive checklist at the end of the day, and I leave 2 or 3 things off and I feel devastated, you know. These are the things to move business forward, these are these things. What flipped was when the most important to do was how I felt at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter, like when I'm not perfect by any means. It's going to take me a long time to get there, but I do put that now as an intention. At the end of the day, I want to feel accomplished about the work that I did. I don't put I want to do all of my work. I want to feel certain ways. And I think that has like adjusted it. And I think especially with parents that have kids and, you know, all of this, I don't have kids, so everything I could say could be wrong about this, but I feel like most of my friends have kids on routines for a very specific reason, because it alleviates their anxiety as a child. It gives them some kind of security. And what I've even noticed is, man, just the outpouring of families coming together, giving alone time, recognizing. I watched my friend yesterday or the day before, Jennifer, she did like live from the shower. Everything was covered, but she just said, you know, her husband had noticed she was starting to lose it, you know? And so he stepped in, and I think having that awareness of a family, like you said, Mary Beth is very in tune to you, and she knows when things are upset, and I feel like a part of this is we're all going to get to know each other in a very close and amazing way, and maybe understand more about our partners and our families and our friends even that we didn't know before. I read a post that Mary Beth put up the day or 2 ago. So tell me about this word marshmallow that you have to help with that.
So it's kind of like I would say it's a safe word.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to think of the best way to say this.
How about I'll say what I would do with it. So like, because it is, I thought when I read it, I was like, I should have a better safe word. But basically it's when Colleen or whoever, so we're at home and we're in a meeting and things are getting, for me, so intense that it's going to elevate to a point where it's no longer productive, and all the not nice things about me are going to start to show. And so what I do is I say to her, like, not a safe word, but I'm like, I can't talk about this anymore, and I just need to not. And so I just leave. And I figure that's kind of similar, maybe a little better, more poetic, the way that you guys do it with a safe word. Yeah,
well, it's more, it is a little bit, but I'd say it's more tied into times where I am completely fine with being like by myself and just relaxing. And there in Mary Beth, I'd say she has lots of great stuff that she likes to talk about, and I mean, lots of great things going on. But there are times where it can get to a point where it'll be a lot for me to handle at one moment to absorb all that information. So that's where I can use the word marshmallow if I feel like it's too much. And then she knows too. Again, there's no questions about it. It's like, oh, okay. And it's it's not like an attack or anything like that, but it's a way for us to just kind of break it up, throughout the day, to realize like if there are things that are causing me stress, or like, hey, I don't want to get there. It's like a nice way to be like, okay, let's just take a breath.
Because it's not about her. No. It's about you.
It's more
and how you're feeling, and how you're able to receive the information or not receive the information at that part. I think the step is you and Mary Beth, when you do it, I'm sure for me, I would feel in this moment, and hopefully, I'm always working on it, but I would feel like I've done something wrong and hurt their feelings, and it would create this like shame spiral because I never want to make someone feel uncomfortable. And so learning that just, sometimes your partner needs a break from your running mouth is like, okay. And it's not anything against you. Yeah. It's just right now, I can't.
Yeah, it's not taking it personally.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's all out of love too, and that's what we both realize. And it kind of comes back to the intention of things. I mean, we still have, we have, different things that we disagree on or back and forth. But again, we both know that we're all doing this to get to where we want to go. So again, it goes back to that communication, just being open and acting from a place of love.
Yeah, that's it. We all love each other. We just all need to remember that is the case. So I want to talk about food really quickly, and then maybe you can wrap us up with doing a meditation before you go.
Sure.
So I know all the things you've told me about food, but right now, if we're able to, and I don't know what this looks like for everybody because health is expensive, all of these things.
Yes.
But if we were going to focus on food right now, what would be some recommendations that you would give individuals?
Sure. So I'll actually tie it into two things. And one, I'll actually start with hydration. So drinking enough water is key during this time. You can use a general sense of half your body weight in ounces for water. For water too, I would recommend getting it from a clean source. So that could be filtered, or spring water is great. Purified is not as much, but if that's what you have access to, definitely go with that. But drinking at least half your body weight in ounces of water a day is a great start. I love to start my day with at least 2 full glasses of lemon water. So it's a great way to kind of get your liver ready for the day as well. So drinking enough water is definitely key.
And if you were going to do the lemon water, let's just say produce is a little sparse right now, just lemon juice from, the little lemon thing. Like, it doesn't have to be a fresh squeezed lemon to do that, right? Just not lemon juice with sugar and all that good. Obviously, fresh better, but what are you going to do if you can't find lemons at the store?
Exactly. So as long as it doesn't have any kind of added stuff into it, it's probably okay. And any kind of citrus, so if it's lime or orange.
So any citrus.
Yeah. But again, like clean water, if you have access to it, is definitely great. When it comes to food, this is one that's going to be a little bit trickier depending on what is available and out there. And for food, for me, it's almost as important as what you don't eat as to what you eat, because right now it's about increasing our immunity, being healthier, and there's lots of things, like from what you eat, what you drink, to how much sleep you're getting, to breathing, thinking, movement, all these different things are all going to play into it. But with food, and again, every person is going to be different, but what I can say from my experience and what I am doing is I don't have any gluten. That's due to an allergy, but gluten has been shown to impact certain people. So I remove gluten from my diet. I also remove dairy from my diet. Again, that's a case by case, but dairy for me causes lots of sinus type issues, so I'm staying away from that. I stay away from corn, stay away from soy, sugar, just regular sugar, and I'd say the other big one is if it's in a box and it has ingredients that you don't know how to pronounce or you're not sure how to pronounce, that's probably something I would stay away from as well. What I would eat, and again, this is everyone's got to do what's best for them, but I would definitely recommend eating more whole foods. So that would be
not the store,
not the
Whole Foods,
but fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds. When it comes to like meat, I would definitely recommend higher quality meats such as grass-fed, or if it's chicken, pasture-raised, or fish, wild-caught. But those are the main kind of areas I'm looking for. But basically, as I say, people are like, well, what can I do that's, I guess, more, I wouldn't say within reason, but like make easy kind of shifts, because again, everyone's going to be in different situations. I mean, I always recommend organic, but I also realize not everyone has those resources as well. But eating just more fruits and vegetables and eating more real food is going to be beneficial. Now, of course, it's, as we were saying, we don't know what's going on in the grocery stores. One of the things, if you are, like I said, I imagine most people have this now, but we use Hungry Harvest, which is a food delivery service that goes around to all the farmers and gets the food that they can't sell.
Fruit, right?
The ugly fruit, yeah. There's all sorts of them now too, but that is a great resource too. That from everything that I've seen is still available and is at a lower cost than you might find at the grocery stores.
That's
so if people are looking for ways to get access to fresh fruits and vegetables, that could be a great resource as well. But as far as I say supplements goes, I mean, supplements are supplements. So I would always start with the food first, and then if you want to supplement, you can add some supplements afterwards. What I'm taking right now is I'm doing some extra zinc, some B12, as well as some oil of oregano.
Oh, I just got it. Dude, man, when you burp with oil of oregano.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah, and if you take it in liquid form too, you gotta cut
capsule,
it. Yeah,
but
capsule.
Still.
Yeah,
it's intense.
That's when you want to make sure you don't. It can be intense. And the other one too, I take Paul Stamets' Stamets 7, which is a mix of different mushrooms as well. But again, those are all supplements. Still starting the day with celery juice and smoothie with wild blueberries. I mean, celery juice, it does wonders. Again, the celery, it's going to be interesting to see if there's a run on the celery.
Let me tell you, I'm already not able to find, like when I go, it's very thin. Sad little celery, but it's I'm thankful for what I do have, and I think one of the most important things is in that you've taught me this, and I think life in general, and maybe Teresa Tree has said this to me. In the end, mind is the most important. And so a lot of people have financial situations, a lot of things. Maybe we won't get access to those things now, or maybe even the future is going to be, I think, a little bit hard for people to come out of this financially. However, if you do the very best that you can, which is one of those agreements, and you have the right mindset about it, and you have gratitude for what food you do have, and you say that food's going to be good for you, I have every belief that food's going to be good for you in that moment. In fact, it was Teresa who taught me, I think if anybody goes out to eat with me or whatever, whenever you see me do something that is bad for me, so I eat some pastry with a lot of sugar, you can see the guilt and you'll hear the guilt. And that whole moment until my blood sugar is back to normal, but any of that is just a whole onslaught of you're dumb. Why did you do that? That's not good for your body, especially now. Even though my blood sugar is well under control, anybody who has blood sugar issues can have a weakened immune system. It creates inflammation. It does all those things. And so one of the things that taught me was if I did cheat, I stopped feeling bad about it. And I just was this is going to be just as good for me as everything else that I eat, because it's going to make me happy and it's what I want now. And I stopped focusing on it. Does it still spike? Yeah, not as bad. I don't know, whatever that may do. But I do think our mindset going into this is maybe even the most important part of this all. Because I think what will actually save us is having that positive mind. I think, science shows it over and over again. There are people who die from diseases that they were misdiagnosed, and they died from that disease. They never had it. And then there are people who told that they're going to pass away from something, and it takes them a very long time to do. And the difference is, I think, all mindset in the end.
100%. It's so interesting because I used to do the same thing too. I still, I say, foods I'm allergic to that I don't agree with, I don't. But every now and again, I'll have something, and I used to think oh, this is gonna make me feel terrible. But then I switched my thought process to oh, I'm celebrating for this. And then next day,
I'm not gonna do it again. It's just a little bit.
I felt fine. But what you're mentioning made me think of Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he has a couple books. Becoming Supernatural is incredible, but he has another one that's, You Are the Placebo. And the whole point of it is just showing, again, that power of the mind.
Yeah.
But also, I would take it a step further, but it's not only your mindset, but also how you're connecting that to your feelings in your body. So that is a powerful tool. So this is another thing that people could do throughout the day. If they want to set that timer for every hour or whatever it is, to stop and just say, like, I am so happy and grateful for blank. So it could be, I'm so happy for blank. It feels so good to blank, because thoughts are the language of the brains and feelings are the language of the body. So when you connect the two, then you're really just connecting those two systems. So you can have the thought. So the mindset is, let's go back to the food example, is like, okay, I'm using this to celebrate. Like, this is a celebration. Like, it's going to feel so good to celebrate by having this treat. Well, that way, then when you wake up, if you were telling yourself the opposite, again, going back to what you don't want.
Yeah.
Then
I'm going to feel shitty.
Yeah,
I feel shitty.
Then you're going to feel shitty. So yeah. But it's
so easy and so hard.
It is. It is and all that. It is. And because it's, I don't, like, I was thinking my own, like, upbringing. It's like, was I just, trained this way? Was this the way that we were raised or brought up? Or is it just part of our human, just how we tend to function? But again, it kind of goes back to, but we have the power. We have the power to change. And just because we have a negative thought, just because we have a negative feeling, doesn't mean that that's a part of us. Doesn't mean we have to own it. Doesn't mean that that's going to become who we are.
Yeah.
We have the power then to flip it, to look at that other side, to really get curious about, what do we want? And how do we want to feel? And the more we can get clear on that, the more you can really start changing things around for you. And again, this could be a practice. You can do it all throughout the day. You could do it first thing in the morning. You could do it for, last thing you do at night. You could do it all those times. I mean, there's these practices too.
It's when you need it.
It's when you need it, but the more you do this, the more you retrain yourself, the more you're going to start feeling better, and you start feeling these feelings. It's not... and this isn't going back to, like, the habits. It's not like, okay, you don't want to feel like you're just checking something off the to-do list, right? Like, I did my gratitude, I did my meditation, I did my breath work. Like, I'm good. I can go do all my other things now.
You need to feel it all.
You need to feel it, and you need to be present with it, and you have to really just take your time. I mean, there's days where I typically do my breath work for, sometimes it'll be 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be 20 minutes, sometimes it'll be like a minute. It just depends on what's happening that day. But there's no right or wrong, but it doesn't matter if I'm doing it for a minute, 5 minutes, or 20 minutes. Like, the intention is there, and the feeling I want to have is still there. So realizing that it doesn't matter however much time we take for it, we can still be present. But the fact that, the more you can be present with it and understand why you're doing it, not just like you're doing it to do it, like, that's going to help you out throughout the day too. Yeah.
So I want to do the meditation, but before we do, because we'll kind of end on that note, because I feel like if we go back, like, the vibe may feel. So before we do that, how can everyone get in touch with you? If they have questions, want to learn more about exactly what you do.
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is just J Hyland, HYLAND coaching.com.
Nice.
That would be the best spot that has all my information there. And my email is james@sparkvisionnow.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So.
Yep. And he's tagged in stuff of mine, so you can find him through there. Okay, so do you want to set this up?
Yeah. So for the how much time do you have?
You just do it. You're good. Yeah.
Okay. So I always like to start my meditation just by taking a few deep breaths. So if you want to kind of close your eyes, and we'll put one hand on our chest and one hand on our belly, and just start by just noticing the breath. And then with intention, start taking some deep belly breaths. So filling that belly up, letting it come a little bit to the chest, and just letting go. We're just filling up the belly and chest and just letting go. And then bring a slight smile to your face. When you smile, it helps release a lot of positive endorphins. And then find a word for how you want to feel leaving this meditation. So maybe it's release, or relax, or present, or positive. Whatever that word might be. And once you find that word, start silently repeating that word to yourself. Over and over again. And if you find yourself thinking about something, lost in thought, or wondering, what am I doing? That's perfectly okay. Just keep coming back to that word and begin again. As you're repeating that word, if you find your attention on something else, again, that's perfectly fine. Just keep coming back to that word, beginning again and again and again. And then when you feel like you've found center and found peace, take another deep belly breath in. Release it with the sound of ah. Another deep breath in. Release with the sound of ah. And just slowly make your way back to the room. You can wiggle your fingers, toes, and when you're ready, you can just gently blink your eyes open.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here on such short notice.
You're welcome.
To do this. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, we'll put it in the show notes too. I feel very calm, so I don't want to sound very excited, but I appreciate everyone tuning in, and thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. The last thing I will say too is there's tons of meditations out there.
Thanks for mentioning this.
All different types. It took me a year to really find what resonated with me. So this is one avenue that you could use. Another great resource and a free resource is Insight Timer, where they have, I think, 20,000 free meditations as well, different guided ones. And you can type in, like if you're ever troubling with sleep or stress, like there's all different ways you can do that. And you can find them from, a couple minutes to 20 minutes to an hour. So whatever you feel like you need, it's another great resource for that as well.
Thanks for bringing that up. I'm all about the free stuff
for
people. We will see you next time.
Thank you.